Councilmember Neal, there's a motion, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and a second. Councilmember Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, and I'd also like to thank my two colleagues for co-sponsoring this item with me. I happen to sit as a member of SCAG Transportation Committee, so I'm constantly involved in discussions on the feasibility of completing the I-710 freeway extension. And I think as we open to that possibility of exploring the opportunities to benefit transit and improve our goods movement corridors, completing the I-710 will be a good way to improve regional transportation while supporting the regional economy. There's serious congestion that we can all relate to on the I-710 in its current condition, compounded by the population growth that we're all facing, increased cargo container volumes through the ports of LA and Long Beach, and increased traffic volumes with an aging infrastructure. So the completion of this very important corridor would benefit the residents of Long Beach and the residents of the region in general. And I urge my colleagues to support it.
Thank you. Any public comment on the item?
Good evening. I'm Councilwoman Barbara Messina from the city of Alhambra. I have been a council person for 19 years on that city council, 8 years on our school board, and during that time I never stopped working on this project. I would like to thank Councilman Neal and Councilman Johnson and Councilman Austin for bringing this before you this evening. As was mentioned, this is truly a regional transportation project. This is not a local issue, as the opponents would have you think. Hassan Icardi from SCAG was going to be here this evening with me to give testimony. However, he had a speaking engagement. During all my time at SCAG, I have also served on transportation. I have served as a committee chair for goods movement, and I know how important moving goods from the port is for the 710 and the region. I am also president of the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, and this project has been on our top priority list for completion because it is a regional transportation project. It is all about mobility, and this gap in the 710 North doesn't allow for mobility on all of our freeways to be used at its highest level of moving around. Completing this gap will enhance mobility throughout the whole region. I thank you for considering this. Long Beach has always been a supporter of this. In 1992, when you passed your original resolution, I was on the city council then and worked with Doug Drummond and Ray Ribinski, and have nothing but positive thoughts with Long Beach. So I thank you for considering this. We are bringing this back to kind of update them. All of the resolutions that I have from a number of the cities along the 710 South Corridor were all from the 1980s and 1990s. So now that we're seeing the end, hopefully, at the end of the tunnel, no pun intended, but we would like to update our resolutions of support. So the draft EIR should be released in February, and an alternative will then be selected. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council, Land Use and Transportation Committee. We're concerned. We're told on one side, hey, don't oppose it until we know what the information is, the facts. What are the facts? Well, have you ever bought a pig in a poke? Well, what happens if it's a snake? Or what happens if it's a hippo? We don't know what it's going to be. Your stipulation, your recommendation refers to the I-710 freeway extension. Well, the proper name is actually the State Route 710 North Extension. There's no inclusion of freeway. And in point of fact, freeway is only one of 5 alternatives. No locally preferred alternative has been selected or even recommended. We don't even know whether it's going to be tolled or untolled, whether it's going to have trucks or no trucks. We don't know whether it's going to be a rail system or a bus system. So what are you going to approve? A freeway? Why approve a freeway when it's not even been locally preferred selected? Here's another issue. The numbers that we finally have gotten would indicate that about half of the traffic will come from freeways and about half of the traffic will come from unloading arterials, 87,000 each. However, the numbers didn't include the I-710 South and its contribution to whatever it's going to be. So, what are you buying? What are you recommending? A freeway? Why recommend a freeway when it's not even been selected? And there are a lot of other alternatives. Sierra Club basically says no new concrete because we don't know what it's going to be used for. Trucks. It was mentioned trucks. Oh, how many trucks? Well, we estimate about 20,000 a day in each lane. 20,000 going north, 20,000 going south. Why? Because Caltrans and MTA and SCAGs has approved it. Well, approved it? No, they haven't, because they're still doing the environmental considerations. Wait until you get some basic information, because you don't know whether you're going to get a snake, a pig, or a hippo. So I'd highly recommend wait 6 months until the alternatives are much better defined, and they will be, or even wait until circulation of the EIR. Isn't that a locally preferred alternative? So I highly recommend please oppose this resolution at this time or continue it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Dr. Bill Sherman. I am the representative from the City of South Pasadena on the Technical Advisory Committee, the TAC. The TAC follows the EIR-EIS process on the SR 710 project. After being on this committee, it's my impression that at the end of the day, the EIR-EIS is going to choose the SR 710 tunnel as a preferred option. To paraphrase one of the previous speakers, there is a problem of tunnel vision, and that's what we see. The 710 tunnel is a truck diversion tollway designed to move the trucks from the I-5 SR2 freeways to the tunnel. It's not going to do anything to the traffic volumes that are on the Long Beach Freeway from the 710 origin to the I-5. In fact, it may even increase the traffic. I kind of look at it as the 710 as a hose, a fire engine hose, and the tunnel is going to be like a garden hose. It's not going to change what happens on the 710, I-710. The tunnel cannot be paid for by existing Measure R tax revenues. The only way they're going to be able to fund this is with a public-private partnership, which will be created and charge tolls of $5 to $15 per trip, and of course higher charges for trucks. The cost of the tunnel has never been established. Roger Malari, who's the financial officer for the MTA, says that if the cost for the tunnel is more than $7 to $8 billion, they'll never be able to sell it or find a company to pick up the PPP. The 710 does not solve traffic problems on the I-710. It costs too much, it will bring pollution and thus disease to cities at either end of the tunnel, to the city and to the cities along the 210 East and 210 West. Cargo should be moved by rail. If anyone has any questions about the EIR-EIS process, I attend many meetings and I would be glad to answer any questions they have about the status of the EIR-EIS. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Joe Cano, El Sereno. I represent the No 710 and El Sereno opposition group. Dr. Bill Sherman pretty much gave you the technical aspects, but I want to give you the human aspects. Our community will sit right at the southern portal where the construction will be. Our community will suffer from dust, increased pollution by the trucks moving the equipment around, and environmental scientists all around the country have already declared the 710 the dirtiest freeway in the nation. Now, we're gonna have construction at the foot of El Sereno. We're gonna have truck exhaust coming out of that tunnel. Once it's complete, people will claim that it will clean the air and it will be cleaner coming out of the tunnel than with the ambient air outside. That technology does not exist at this time, and if it does, it's going to be very expensive. Now, I want to remind the council that there have been 2 court injunctions against this project, against Caltrans, on the basis of environmental racism. Because of the majority of the community, Mexican American, will suffer a disproportionate effects of lung disease, heart disease, higher incidences of autism in our children. We ask the Long Beach City Council to please take a neutral stand until the environmental process is finished, because to do so perverts the process, and they're pushing a tunnel. So we want every alternative study, and not until those results have been presented to the public, then I believe you can make a more informed judgment on whether you support the solutions to the traffic issues we have in our region. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members, and I have a cold, so I wasn't here for this, but I'm here for this because my sister lives up in the area that's the north end of the 710, and I get all the emails on the No on 710 people. And so I've been seeing all the facts, and pretty much everything that all the speakers before me have said is what I've been reading, and I don't want to repeat all that stuff. I just kind of want to say, let's slow down, and let's not make any decisions of supporting anything yet, because there's nothing really to support until there is something on the table. And I know that we all are into the zero emissions end of things, and that's what we're supporting, but we don't know that that's actually what's going to happen. And I know when we're here struggling with the 710 and what it's going to become down here, we fight really hard to get the best possible scenario, and I want you to wait till something is on the table before you support anything, and I would really like you to consider that. Thank you. So I'm opposed to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and City Council. I'm Jack Smith. I live at 50 Elm Avenue. That's in the East Village in the 2nd District. I'm confused. We have spent a lot of time down here, I'm saying down here because they're all referring to up there, talking about freeway expansion. This item shows up as freeway extension. Now, because I've been involved in the extension arguments over the last 11 years, maybe I understand what extension means, and I'll say, I understand extension to mean finishing or sending the 710 freeway further north through South Pasadena and Pasadena. So is that the case? I don't think most people watching television or in the audience understand that difference. Second of all, I don't know how much we would appreciate Pasadena passing a resolution defining how our freeway expansion down here should be done. I think that's the job of SCAG. That's why we send a representative to SCAG, is to represent us at that body. But as far as the city councils telling another city what they deserve or what they need, I don't think that's appropriate. So I would ask you to vote against this item.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, I'm going to turn it back to the council. Councilman Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, and I really appreciate everyone's comments. I think Mr. Smith's comments toward the end were apropos. I would say that this item is more about moving the process forward. And in regards to extension, keeping the process moving, we're in support of keeping it moving. We are not selecting what alternative it is, but moving the process forward. And that's my clarification.
Councilman Randrus?
Yes, Councilman Neal, when you say keeping it moving, I mean, I'm trying to get some clarification on that, sir. Are we making a decision on whether they should be able to?
No, that, I'm saying, as a body, my desire is that we support the process of moving, of extending the 17. and then looking to see what the alternatives would be at a later date. Well, we're not making that determination.
So you're saying that we're not speaking for the people in Altadena, Pasadena, or Alhambra, you know, as far as the freeway is concerned? We're just giving our opinion on
We're
it.
speaking on behalf of extension of the freeway, is that what I just said? Extending it in regards to goods movement, transportation, things of that nature.
Okay, fine.
Councilman Neal, roll call.
I appreciate the clarification, especially the okay, fine. It's very interesting, this process. I have not been following it as many years as the council member that had spoken earlier. There you are. Certainly, Councilmember Neal, I'm really struggling with this because who was it earlier that said, you know, what would it be like if someone was deciding what's happening in our city? And given the position that this council's taken on a project led by the council member from the 7th District, Councilmember Johnson, it's a project somewhere else, but it really affects us, and we tend to take umbrage at what other cities determine is good enough for our residents. So I'm really challenged by that. And I work in transit, and I know that folks at Metro will be very disappointed if I'm not able to support this. That is my full-time profession, is in transit, but this is difficult. As council members, we wear different hats, and we have to consider constituencies and how it impacts our constituents, but at the same time, the position that we're placing our colleagues in other cities. It's difficult, and I think one thing I have followed is the nuance of the conversation between goods movement and actually moving commuter cars. And I think this is leaning more toward a benefit of just moving cars, passenger cars, as opposed to the benefit that we're hearing about goods movement and air quality. There is that, but really it's difficult for me to make that choice right now. So I'd like to hear from my other colleagues if anyone else will be commenting, but I'm not able to support that based on that reason.
Thank you. I do have a question. I have a question along the lines of Councilman Lowenthal for staff, actually. I was under the impression that the city has essentially already taken a position generally about the 710. Is that not right, or?
I'm not aware of any position the city's taken regarding.
Through our work with the COG and through the work with.
No, I don't believe so.
No, we have not?
No.
I thought we had. I'm talking about the whole problem, not maybe for the whole project itself.
It does not include the extension, no.
Mr. Modica, can you clarify that?
Yes, Vice Mayor, we have not taken any position on the extension. I think your question is whether or not we have taken a position on our portion of the 710, which actually goes from the down from Long Beach all the way up to the 60. And we did hold, we had an item where we talked about our comment letter, and we provided a comment letter into the agencies, but we never selected a preferred alternative or gave input on what we would want for this part of the 710.
And then maybe this is a question for Councilmember Neal or the authors. I also just had a question about the timing component. I know that we don't have all the alternatives yet. I was wondering if is there a necessity for the timing to be occurring at this moment? Is that?
Well, from my perspective, as a member of the SCAG Transportation Committee, I think this is a project, and again, we're talking about the process of getting to an extension where we can talk about what the options are. Moving this forward, in my eyes, puts us in a position where we are basically, as a city, say we're in support of moving and extending the freeway, which ultimately not only helps Long Beach, but helps the other cities along the 17 corridor. Granted, it's a very controversial issue anytime we deal with environmental issues and how that infringes on communities. We do have to, as Councilmember Lowenthal state, weigh how it affects constituencies, but at the same time, for the economic engine which also exists, I happen to be one to believe that in the event that this project is extended, it will help benefit freight corridors and things of that nature. I would like to see the process complete where there comes a time when there is a resolution on whatever these different items or options are, similar to what we face down here. And that was the timing that I was on it.
Councilman Lowenthal.
Just one clarification. The only option on the table before us to make a determination is this alternative about the tunnel, correct? Councilmember Neal? So casting an aye vote, this body casting an aye vote would suggest that we would be in support of that alternative. Is that correct? City Manager, perhaps I can,
Yes.
okay. Which again poses a challenge for me. And you know I support process, and if this were to actually extend a conversation to explore different alternatives or additional alternatives, not that anyone in these communities want to talk for a few more years, but that would be different. But I think this doesn't simply just move the conversation, it suggests that we support that alternative.
Oh, come on. 1 second, let me just make sure that there's, for the board here.
Yeah, I would just like to clarify, you're not supporting any of the alternatives. We are just asking it, and you have in the past by your resolution in 1992, to support the completion, whichever alternative is selected. So you're not being asked to pick the tunnel or any other alternative this evening. You're just being asked to support the completion. And when the EIR and Metro decide which of the 5 alternatives, I will say that SCAG does have the tunnel in the RTP, because in order for a project to be in the RTP, it has to have funding to accommodate the project. However, this resolution this evening before you is simply to support the process, as Councilman Neal said. And you're not looking at any of the alternatives yet. Metro will determine that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to turn it back actually to Councilman, we've actually concluded public comment, sir. I'm going to turn it back to Councilman Lowenthal. Sir. No, sir, actually, I'm going to go back to Councilman Lowenthal. Councilman Lowenthal. If someone asks a question, sir, I'll allow you to come back up. But Councilman Lowenthal.
Brown Act.
And Mr. Parkin, since the Brown Act was cited, let me have you respond.
As a point of order, you had closed public comment, and the first speaker, I'm not sure if there was a question asked, but it would be out of order to allow, unless you're going to reopen public comment again. The point of this first speaker was out of order.
Yes.
And so I have no further questions for the public, and I appreciate your willingness to answer, but I do have a question for the city manager. So I'm going to direct all my questions that way.
Sir, please take a seat, sir.
And possibly Mr. Modica. And I appreciate the belief that we would not be casting support on any particular alternative, but by the mere act of supporting the completion of the 710 freeway, which I do believe a lot of us do support, what ends up happening, and I'd like staff to correct me if I'm incorrect in this belief, what ends up happening is whatever Metro chooses as the alternative is what is selected. And so for us it's not as simple as saying, let's complete the 710 freeway, because you are abdicating that decision to the entity that's certainly has the authority to make those recommendations. But I can't bifurcate the two. By supporting this tonight, we're actually saying, okay, whatever Metro ends up deciding is what we end up supporting. Is that correct, Mr. City
I'm
Manager?
going to turn that to Tom Modica or R. Maloney, whoever can answer that.
Vice Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Lowenthal, I think in essence that is the case, is I'm not familiar with all the different alternatives that are out there, but, following the EIR process, if there is a locally preferred alternative selected, if you are supporting that extension, you are supporting whatever is determined down the road to be the locally preferred alternative, which is my understanding that has not been selected yet. If that helps answer the question.
It does, and can you describe for me briefly what the process of selecting the locally preferred alternative is?
Again, I'm pretty familiar with our 710 process, but not as much as their 710 process. But typically, there is a agency, there's a multi-step agency. And in our instance, there are a group of cities that actually help to determine what that locally preferred alternative is, and then they make a recommendation to to Caltrans as the actual entity that's over the project. And I'm assuming this would also be Caltrans, and then Caltrans would make that decision about what the locally preferred alternative would be.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor DeLong?
Thank you. If it's not out of order, I'd like to hear what the gentleman had to say, as long as he's brief.
Absolutely, sir. Come forward.
Thank you. Your resolution specifically says freeway. The official title of the 710 gap closure, or whatever you want to call it, is State Route 710 State Route 710 North Extension. There is no specification as to being a freeway, a tunnel, or any other feature of transportation. They are considering rail, they are considering bus rapid transit, they are considering a whole bunch of things, and they will eventually have to add several other alternatives through the EIR process. We are told constantly, wait until the EIR process is completed. Then there will be some decisions. Right now, you have a resolution before you stating a freeway extension. Therefore, you will be supporting paving the road. That is only one of the alternatives. The other ones have rail, the other ones use existing pavement. So therefore, if you pass a resolution tonight supporting a freeway extension, there's no change in definition there. You are supporting only one of the 5 alternatives that are being considered at this time. Hey, take 6 months. Wait until there's more information provided. You don't even know how many trucks, if there will be trucks, how many cars, how many passengers. All of these things will be resolved. But you're getting ahead of the game. Is it a snake? Is it a pig? Or will it be a hippo? For me, I overlook the 710 North corridor, and I don't want a hippo. Snake, maybe. I don't know. But it's for the communities to decide, not for you guys. We didn't come down. I have my own opinions regarding 710 South, and I helped some people understand the technical side of it. But here is a situation where before you even have the local alternative, preferred alternative decided, you're taking an action. That is kind of wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. No more council deliberation, so we have a motion on the floor. What, Mr. Neal, do you want to?
Yes, I would like to amend the motion or the item to state the I-710 route as opposed to freeway.
SR 710, SR
As,
710.
just to amend it.
Okay, so what's the motion, sir?
The SR 710 route as opposed to freeway.
So the new motion is supporting the completion of the SR 710 route,
Yes.
and then that would be reflective on the changes on the resolution.
Yes.
Is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and a second. There is no other, anyone else queued up, so we're going to take a vote on the motion. Councilor Lowenthal?
So in changing that that leaves open the possibility, whatever the local committee comes up with. And again, I appreciate the clarification, it helps. I don't think I'm quite there yet, given it is early, and I'm not comfortable leaving it open for whatever alternative. I do know that every alternative has different impacts on different neighborhoods, as it does with any project.
Councilor Austin?
Well, I appreciate the amendment, and I do appreciate the public comment. I do understand. As the I-17 freeway is known as the Long Beach Freeway, because I think this community is impacted pretty significantly by every aspect of, and every community that's associated with the I-17. And for that freeway to fall short of really mobility for the region, I think is a real handicap for us here in Southern California. I do support the amendment because I do think it forwards provides us some flexibility in terms of supporting the idea, the concept. I will also say that I think this is as likely to happen as the I-710 expansion here in Long Beach. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll see it happen in our lifetime. So I will support this concept, and again, I thank you for amending the motion.
Councilor Shipskin, and we're going to a vote.
Well, I just have to ask, if we decided just to receive and file on this, what's the impact of us just at this point not taking a position? I mean, I'm a little puzzled about why this is being pushed along like this. We really haven't had a full discussion at the council about all the ramifications of doing this. I mean, I'm just curious, the authors can indicate, why are we doing this now? And if we were just to receive and file and wait until we hear what's really being proposed, and then take a position, would there be an objection to that? I mean, what would be the problem? Why is this resolution needed now?
Well, again, I started by saying I think you bring up a good point. I may have a little more information as opposed to others that's sitting on the Transportation Committee. And it seems that the body is not interested in moving forward, and I can respect that. So I don't have a problem with receiving and filing it, and we can come back in a few months and readdress it.
I'd like to make a motion just to receive and file at this point.
Second. Okay, there's been a motion and a second to receive and file. I do want to go to Councilor Lowenfeld.
And in coming back from staff, I'd like to know the process that Mr. Modica mentioned, where what is the local committee, what's the composition, and what's their decision process? Who sits on these local committees? Are they council members, or are they members of the community? Just so that we know that the word itself, local, what that actually means as opposed to just locally situated.
Councilor DeLong.
Thank you. And I guess I would also say, if you come back, it'd be nice to know what the alternative is. So rather than come back in 2 or 3 months, if 5 or 6 actually knows what the option is, I think that would certainly be helpful. So we know which ones we might be supporting. So maybe that's a better time frame.
Okay, we do have a substitute motion on the floor. Councilor Johnson.
Well, very quickly, I just want to say I do think we need to close the gap. But I understand the comments of my colleagues. I think it's fine to take some time, get more information. So I'll be supporting the motion, but I do think we have a stake in Long Beach, in a Long Beach freeway that works.
Okay. Members, please go ahead and cast your votes.
Councilman O'Donnell. Motion carries 8 votes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item, please.